the New York Times best-selling series. Ivy plus Bean. Take Care of the Babysitter. By Annie Barrows plus Sophie Blackell. Book 4. Too Good to Be True. Thwack! Bean was grinding corn. She put a few pieces of Indian corn on the sidewalk and then smacked a rock down on top of them. Thwack! It hardly dented them, but that was okay. That was part of the fun. You had to pound for a long time. Thwack! What are you doing? It was her sister, Nancy, standing on the porch. Grinding corn. Thwack! Bean looked at her corn. It was dented now. You can do some, too, if you want. I've got lots of corn. Nancy watched her pound. What's it for? Food, said Bean. I'm making cornbread. Thwack! Hey, look! Corn dust. Nancy almost came to look. She even took a step down the stairs. But then she got a prissy look on her face and said, like Mom's going to let you eat stuff that's been on the sidewalk. Dream on. Bean could have thrown the rock at her, but she knew better than that. Bean was 7. Nancy was 11. Bean knew how to drive Nancy nutso without getting into trouble herself. She began to moan loudly, grind or starve. Winter's coming. If we don't grind corn, we'll have to eat rocks. Cut it out, Bean, hissed Nancy. Everyone will see you. Nancy was always worried that everyone would see her. Bean wanted everyone to see her. She lay down on the sidewalk and rolled from side to side, moaning, just a little corn dust, that's all I ask. The front door slammed. Nancy had gone inside. That was easy. Bean lay on the sidewalk, resting. The sun was warm. She loved Saturdays. We've got dirt at my house, said a voice above her. It was Sophie West from down the street. What kind of dirt? Asked Bean. Sophie smiled. Both her front teeth were out, and she had filled the hole with gum. A lot of dirt. That sounded interesting. Bean jumped up and grabbed her bag of corn. Together, she and Sophie hurried around Pancake Court. Usually Sophie W.'s house looked a lot like all the other houses on Pancake Court, but today it looked different. Today, there was an enormous mound of dirt in the front yard. A monster mound. It was as high as the front porch. Maybe even higher. It spread across most of the lawn, all the way to the path. The dirt was dark brown, the kind of dirt that smells good and is already halfway to mud. Wow. Your parents actually gave you dirt? Asked Bean. Sort of, Sophie said. They're going to use it in the backyard, but not until next week. We can play on it? Asked Bean. It was too good to be true. It's okay with your mom? Sophie W. looked at her front door and giggled. My mom's not home. There's a babysitter in there. Bean stared at the mound. They wouldn't put it out in the front yard if they didn't want people to use it, she thought. Shouldn't we ask the babysitter? She said. Just at that moment, a teenage girl stuck her head out the front door. She was the babysitter. Oh, she said to Sophie. There you are. Is it okay if we play with this dirt? Asked Bean politely. The teenager looked at the mound like she had never seen it before. I guess. Don't track it into the house. No problem, said Bean. We don't even want to go in the house. The babysitter nodded and turned to Sophie. I guess I'll be watching TV, okay? Sure, said Sophie. She and Bean waited until the teenager was inside. Then Sophie turned to Bean. What should we play? Play? Said Bean. We haven't got time to play. This volcano's about to blow. Disaster twins. Ivy wouldn't want to miss out on a volcano, that was for sure. Bean zipped up the street to Ivy's house and rang the doorbell. But that was too slow. Hey, she yelled through the mail slot. There's a volcano at Sophie W.'s. A what? Said Ivy, opening the door. Ivy was reading. She was reading a really big book with long words even on the cover, which was something Bean couldn't stand. It was bad enough when there were big words inside the book. A volcano! Bean yelled. Come on! Ivy looked at her book. Bean rolled her eyes. Ivy! It's a natural disaster. You have to be there. Okay, said Ivy. She put down her book. It's a good book, though. You are so weird sometimes, said Bean. Come on! The two girls ran back to Sophie's house. Leo was there now, and Sophie S., and Prairie's little brother, Isaiah. When she got to the front yard, Bean fell onto the grass. Earthquake, she hollered. Volcanoes made the earth shake, too. Volcanoes and earthquakes were like disaster twins. Ivy grabbed a bush and shook it back and forth to show that the earth was quaking. Sophie W. and Prairie pretended they were being crushed by falling buildings. Leo pretended his car blew up, which was a little strange, but he said it happened all the time during earthquakes. Smoke, screeched Bean, pretending to be terrified. She pointed to the dirt mountain. She's going to blow. They all stopped what they were doing and looked at the mound of dirt. It would be better if we had real smoke, said Sophie S. It would be better if we had real lava, said Bean. Ivy glanced around the yard, looking for lava. There wasn't any, but she did see a hose lying on the lawn. She picked it up. That's good, said Bean. Lava flows, just like water. Yup, said Ivy. But how are we going to get it to come out the top of the dirt? They all thought about that for a minute. I know, said Prairie, her eyes shining. Let's stick him inside. She pointed to Isaiah. We dig a hole at the top, and then we bury him with the hose. Isaiah looked worried. If we bury him, said Bean, he won't be able to breathe. Isaiah nodded. We'll just dig a hole, said Leo. We won't bury him. It'll be like a sacrifice to the gods, said Ivy in a dreamy voice. I'm going home, said Isaiah. He ran. Prairie caught him. She promised to give him her stuffed seal plus 3 glow-in-the-dark stickers. Also a lollipop the next time she got 2. That was a lot, just for being the lava. Isaiah said okay. It took quite a while to build the volcano. At first, they tried climbing to the top of the mound to dig the crater. A lot of dirt slid off the mound, and so did Ivy and Sophie S. In the end, they decided to smash down the dirt in the back of the mound to make steps and then dig an Isaiah-sized crater near the top. It would only look like a volcano from the front, but who cared? Finally, everything was perfect. Isaiah climbed the steps slowly, holding the hose and Bean's bag of corn. Bean, Ivy, Leo, Prairie, and Sophie S. gathered around the foot of the volcano. Sophie W. got to turn on the hose, since it was her house. You ready? Called Prairie. Yes, said Isaiah. They could hardly hear him inside the crater. On your mark, yelled Bean. Get set. Go. She threw herself onto the ground. Earthquake, she bellowed. Help, howled Sophie S. The volcano is spewing. Isaiah threw the corn out the top. Ask the gods for forgiveness, yelled Ivy. It's too late, shouted Leo, flapping bushes back and forth. Oh no! Here it comes, hollered Prairie. Sophie W. laughed and turned the hose on full blast. AAHH, screamed the volcano, and water blew out the top of the crater in a gigantic spray. Bean was sopping wet. There was corn in her hair. There was mud on her clothes. She was crawling through the burning lava to bring life-giving corn to the hungry townspeople. The hungry townspeople were some rocks over by the edge of the lawn. Ivy and Leo and Prairie and both Sophies were crawling through the burning lava, too. Isaiah refused to come out of the crater. Ben. Time to come home. It was Bean's mom, calling from her porch. Weird.